right, we got Duane Chapman, Dog, the bounty hunter, known to most. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me. Are you in Florida, Colorado? Where are you at?
We're in Castle Rock, Colorado at the moment, but
Okay.
we are in Florida also, yes.
I when I lived in Denver, I lived in Parker.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, right down the road from you. Castle Rock's nice.
Oh, thank you. So's Parker, yeah.
Yeah, it's that town's blown up a lot since I left.
Oh, yeah. Douglas County is rated one of the top counties in Colorado, so I agree.
Yeah, it's I always loved the weather there. Even the snow. I mean, it could snow 2 feet and then it's 60 the next day.
Yeah. That's one thing I can't stand is the cold. So
Well, how long were you in Hawaii? You were in Hawaii for a while with the show, weren't you?
I was in Hawaii 24 years.
Wow.
So Florida is kind of it's a lot, I think, a lot nicer than Hawaii. So it's warm all the time. A lot of different things that Florida's got that I really love. So it's really nice there. So
Yeah. Oh, I love Florida. Love Florida. So you're doing a ministry now called Light Up the Darkness?
yes, my wife is co-owner of that company, correct? And I work for her.
Uh-oh. How's that going?
Well, sure.
So what are you guys doing with that? You guys, I mean, I've read about you're kind of touring around and giving speeches and stuff, correct?
Well, we have a message, so we go to different churches with the message.
Mm-hmm.
Then my sister in the Lord is Katie Souza, who owns half of Faith Television.
Okay.
So we for prisons in Missouri, we go in and speak to the inmates, and then we've done some stuff with Kenneth Copeland in Texas. And while we're doing it, I have a show called Dog and the Essentials, and the Essentials are retire. The FBI retires you in your early 50s, mandatory.
Really?
So there's a whole, yeah, CIA also. So there's a whole group of guys out there in their 50s that, one of my brothers told me, if I catch another fish, I'm going to kill myself. And so we hooked up with these guys accidentally on the Brian Laundrie case.
Yeah.
And I am totally amazed at their knowledge. And they're like me, they will not stop until the perp is caught. So
Yeah.
hooked up with them. So as we're going after we're going after only high profile killers and this and that, because they're letting everybody else out of jail for free.
Yeah.
So they're not killers yet. So as we go there, we find a church or somewhere to speak at as we're doing our hunts. So we kind of combine the speaking with the bounty hunting, and so far it's worked out really good.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You were born in Denver and you kind of started out as a at 15 you're in a motorcycle group, 18 months in prison, and then got out. And then were you working as a welder then, or is that when you became a bail bondsman?
No, I rode through Texas with the
Uh-huh.
Devil's Disciples, and we caught a murder case out of Texas, and there was five of us. One guy went in the house to buy some pot, and there was a shootout. The rest of us sat in the car, and the guy was wounded, but later, of course, passed. And all five of us got convicted of murder. So
Jeez.
while I was in prison, I elevated myself, or God elevated me to warden's barber, and the barber shop was outside the prison main gate. And one day, one of my friends, one of his relatives died. So immediately in prison, when a relative dies, the guards grab you and throw you in the hole. So because you're going to run, you're going to your mama's funeral no matter what. So as they were throwing him in the hole, he ran. And so I saw the 30-30 rifles from the towers going to gun him down. So I took out after him and tackled him.
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't. A lieutenant was right behind me with a 38 pistol, just getting ready to shoot me, and he saw what I was doing. He thought I was running with him,
Yeah.
and as his name was Bigfoot, my friend, as he fell to the ground, the lieutenant threw down these handcuffs and said, "Hook him up, bounty hunter."
Really?
And I told the lieutenant, I can't hook him up.
Mm-hmm.
And, I kind of got it. The warden called me down and said, you're our best barber. I was warden's barber. I cut his hair that I've ever had, but we got to ship you now because you ran an inmate down.
Yeah.
I said, well, I didn't run anybody down. That's my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows Bigfoot, 6'7", and he was with the black tribe, and he was my good friend. He basically protected me while I was there. And I said, he's my friend, warden. I wasn't going to let him get killed. And so the warden said, okay, I'll let you, spend the night tonight, but if you end up dead in the morning, I try to tell you. So
Oh shit.
I was, just before we went to bed, the Muslims came up to me and said, why did you do this? And my friend was sitting next to me, said, you know why he did it? Him and Bigfoot are friends. Dog didn't run him down. They were going to kill Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And at that size, he was not a fast runner. Okay.
Yeah.
He was like a, he loped when he ran. He didn't know.
Big target too.
And so, huh?
I said a big target too.
Oh yeah. So in the morning, I woke up, outside my cell were envelopes and stamps and different cigarettes. And so the warden called me down and said, by God, they've given you a love offering. And he said, I'm going to tell you something, Dog Chapman, your bread is buttered.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got 5 years and 1 day out of Amarillo, Texas in 1977. And so one day the warden came and said, listen, Texas is a life sentence for murder. Why do you only have 5 years? So I told him the story, the real story. We pulled up, the guy went in, came out. And so about an hour later, I got thrown in the hole for lying to the warden. So the next day, the warden took me out of the hole. He brought me into lieutenants, majors. They sit in like a jury. And he said, Dog, I talked to Ruth Jordan, your sheriff. And I said, yes, sir, out of Gray County. He said, by God, you told me the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what they told me was that you were going to really be something someday, but somebody had to stop you. And he said, I know your birthday's February 2nd, and I'd like to give it to you on your birthday. But he said, I'm going to let you go on February the 6th. So instead of doing the 5 years and 1 day, I did 18 months. And on February 6th, 1979, he let me out of prison. And I went right to the comic book and ordered me a badge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went to the post office and got a copy of the top 10 most wanted. And about 2 months later, I caught one of them. And then the FBI took over and started training me. And, I have a friend that still is retired now, but he's still one of my best friends from the FBI. So 43, 44 years later, I've arrested over 10,000 fugitives and, never killed anyone. I used non-lethal weapons because I'm still a felon. I can't carry a real gun, thank God. and
So you
I've
got
shot about it.
you got out of you were in prison at 15. What, you got out you were 17, 18 whenever you first started bounty hunting?
No, I was 23 when I
Okay.
first started. Yeah. But I rode with the disciples from 15 years until I was 21. That's when I got in trouble in Texas.
At age 15, was it even legal to drive then?
Oh, yeah, you could get a motorcycle license at 14.
Oh, really?
Well, back then, we all made fake IDs, right?
Uh-huh.
Someone. So I had an ID that said I was 18. And as long as long as you had a tattoo and an ID, because you used to have to be 18 to get tattoos. So
Mm-hmm.
I would show the tat and the fake ID. And for many, many years, no one knew I was only 15.
Yeah. What kind of bike did you ride?
I rode a 63 Panhead.
Oh, wow.
I had it all souped up. I had stroker plates on the bottom of the jugs. and it was fast. I rode in Los Angeles, San Francisco, once in a while, Colorado. Back then, we went to Raton, New Mexico for the biker rally.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, they go to Sturgis.
Yep.
And rode all through Arizona, Phoenix, Arizona, California, a lot of states where the disciples were, where the disciples rode. The Devil's Disciples, which still to this day are one percenters, and they're a sister club, which means they're friends with the Hells Angels. So the Hells Angels have very few sister clubs,
Mm-hmm.
and one of them is the Devil's Disciples. So a lot of my friends were in the Angels, and again, I was in the Disciples.
How did you get
And
hooked
as you
up with
know,
them?
pardon?
How did you get hooked up with them? Just new friends that were in them, in the group?
Well, I was a Devil's Disciple that we'd go to like Jimi Hendrix concert, and the Hells Angels were hired to protect the singers, right?
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
I was one of the guys that were hired to stand around the stage so that people wouldn't rush them. So I started meeting angels and becoming friends with them. And speaking of that, not to say, but Sonny Barger was the president of the Hells Angels for many, many years. And 2 weeks ago, he passed away.
Oh,
So
wow.
a lot of people don't know that. But Hells Angels came from the military, and they gave him a military funeral. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So 23, you start bounty hunting, catch somebody pretty high profile. FBI gets you going. You were just bounty hunting 24/7 at that age?
Yes, I was. My top is six a day,
Six
six
a
in one,
day?
6 in a 24-hour period.
Jeez.
And back then, when I started, a bail bondsman, if you ran from a bondsman, he would take your house. Well, I studied it real good, and Abraham Lincoln wrote the law or signed the bill that a bail bondsman may hire an agent, which is, of course, called a bounty hunter. So I started working for a lot of the bondsmen in Colorado. So at any one time, I had 50 different warrants.
Uh-huh.
And, I have 12 children, one's in heaven. So I got a couple divorces where I got custody of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I raised kids a lot of years by myself. So it's against the law to starve babies. I mean, they got to eat.
Yeah.
And my kids were expensive. So I had to bounty hunt to pay the bills. Sometimes I
Oh,
only
yeah.
made $500 an arrest, and of course, sometimes more, but I had to keep an average up to pay. And I didn't live a lavish lifestyle, but I lived a nice lifestyle. And then in 1981, the FBI said, "Listen, we met this guy named Tony Robbins,
Oh.
who is teaching us to shoot targets better, and he talks a lot like you, only he's got more than a four-letter vocabulary." And so I met Robbins in 1981, and he asked me to be a guest speaker, and I said sure. So I had arrested from 79 to 81 about 1,500 people at that time. So Tony was very intrigued about my life story.
Sure.
So he put the book Awaken the Giant Within. And then I met Martin Sheen at a Tony Robbins convention,
Uh-huh.
and said, "Listen, you could be on television, buddy." And Martin Sheen kind of guided me into. Then I met the Osbournes. I did a couple shows with Ozzy and Sharon,
Mm-hmm.
and then we kind of guided into television because I've been famous in my own mind since I was 9 years old,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be on TV. People say, "I love you, dog." I knew, God, I want that. So with Tony Robbins' help and Martin Sheen's help and the FBI's help, and the FBI. This is when the FBI was the real FBI.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like, right. So,
How was Tony Robbins helping them shoot better?
well, concentration.
Yeah.
You know, look, don't sit there a long time. Know you're going to hit your target.
Mm-hmm.
Expect to hit your target. It's kind of biblical where the Bible says, if you say unto this mountain, be thou removed and cast into the sea,
Mm-hmm.
God doesn't mean like Mount Everest. He means like a mountain in your life. If you will say, and God said, let there be light. It also says that the tongue is the most powerful weapon we have in our body. And so Tony Robbins, spoke like that. If you say, you can't say weeds be gone and they're gone.
Yeah.
But if you expect to get and say what you want, you don't say, oh, I'm sick. You might be able to say, I have the symptoms of the flu,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm getting better. And both spiritual and carnal, the words that we say, make us who we are today. You know what I mean? Or there wouldn't be such a thing as cancel culture. So, I mean, that's how that all started.
Were you? When did you find religion and God? Were you always like that, or was that after?
Yeah, sure. My mother was Assembly of God in Colorado,
Okay.
and I used to sing in church at 7, 8 years old. She played the accordion and the organ, and she made me go to church all the time.
Mm-hmm.
My father was very physically abusive, pull your pants down and take beatings. And I went to school and couldn't change my clothes at the gym class because I had bruises up and down my thighs.
Ugh.
So I blamed that rebellion I had at 14 on his, uh, his punishment was like unbelievable. So
Sure.
and then of course when I got in trouble after rebellion, you go back to what you think's right, and it was God,
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've had through my lifetime different prophets say, someday when I'm 10, 11 years old, he's going to be something, right? And my president of my biker club, Houdat, uh, I was given a nickname, and they said, now I didn't go around Jesus, Jesus, but I always spoke of God my whole life.
Yeah.
And so the president said, listen, you're very loyal. You show up for every fight. You're man's best friend. And you always talk about God. So we're going to name you God spelled backwards as dog.
Oh
So
wow.
like dog, man's best friend. So, some preacher asked me the other day, why are you so spoiled with God?
Mm-hmm.
Because you wouldn't some of the miracles God does for me. And I said, well, who else carries around his nickname? So it just all fit together into one package. And I just know in my heart and can prove that, God can make things a lot easier on you.
Sure, sure. That's awesome. Uncut with Jay Cutler is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Most of you listening right now are probably multitasking. Yep, while you're listening to me talk, you're probably also driving, cleaning, exercising, or maybe even grocery shopping. But if you're not in some kind of moving vehicle, there's something else you can be doing right now. Getting an auto quote from Progressive Insurance. It's easy and you can save money by doing it right from your phone. Drivers who save by switching to Progressive save over $700 on average. And auto customers qualify for an average of 7 discounts. Discounts for having multiple vehicles on your policy, being a homeowner, and more. So just like your favorite podcast, Progressive will be with you 24/7, 365 days a year, so you're protected no matter what. Multitask right now. Quote your car insurance at Progressive.com to join the over 27 million drivers who trust Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Companies and Affiliates. National annual average insurance savings by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2020 and May 2021. Potential savings will vary. Discounts not available in all states and situations. When did you, so the show started in 2004. Were you already in Hawaii at that point working? Or did you guys move over there
Yeah,
for the
no,
show? You were there?
I moved to Tony Robbins, or I moved there in '98. Or Tony Robbins had a 10-day retreat, right,
Yeah,
where a lot of people they went through 10 days of training,
sure.
and I was a guest speaker, like I said. So Tony came to me and said, "Listen, I want you to take the course." I'm like, He's like, not. You're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So flew me to Hawaii. I did the 10-day course, and of course, one of his main things are you can be who you want to be. If you want to be it, you can be it. And I never had, from Colorado, the snow, I don't like it, or the rain or the cold, it dies. And,
Uh-huh.
Hawaii was full of flowers. And some guy with dark skin walked up and said, "Hey, brother." And I said, "Brother?" And he's like, "Yeah, brother, we're all brothers." So I called my mom. I said, "Mom, I can't leave."
Yeah.
You know, so I went to Tony and said, "I'm not going home." And he's like, "What?" And I go, "I am not going home. I'm going to stay right here in Bounty Hunt. I'm going to become a bail bondsman." And he's like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Man, I just went through your course. What do you think? I'm going to stay right here."
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed right there and, became one of the most successful bail bondsmen in the country.
In
And,
Hawaii.
well, across the United States, I
Sure.
lobbied, didn't lobbyists, but we went to a lot of states telling them, bail is necessary. Something like car theft now is a misdemeanor in Colorado. That's absolutely crazy. Of course, now Aurora leads the nation in car thefts.
Really?
So I went to different states and, talking about different crime bills that you shouldn't reduce crime. That's not going to help them stop.
Nope.
And this was years ago. I won sometimes by one vote. I went head to head with Kamala Harris and won by 2 votes. No bail in California, so we beat her there. So I was into a political way to talk to senators and congressmen
Sure.
like that with a bail. And I wrote more bail than any bondsman in the country because I wrote bail nationwide, and
Yeah.
everybody would dog to, because they knew I was fair. I wouldn't rob them, and after I arrested them, I'd give them a cigarette and talk
Mm-hmm.
to them, about straightening their life up. So
Yeah.
my reputation grew in the bail bond industry. So I wrote the most bail, caught the most fugitives, changed the most lives. So that's what constitutes me staying number one bondsman in the country.
For sure. Did A&E contact you guys to do the show, or how did that start and come about?
What started with in the '80s, Dominic Dunn. I don't know if you remember him,
Uh-uh.
and Vin did a funniest videos.
Okay.
Came to a Tony Robbins thing and heard me speak, and Martin Sheen told them, this guy needs a TV show, but I don't
Mm.
know if you can show the arrests live like that.
Yeah.
So we did a couple shows on Discovery Channel or one of those channels.
Uh-huh.
One was Secret Life of Bounty Hunters, and then we did Take This Job. So out of the 9 shows, Take This Job that A&E had,
Mm-hmm.
the Bounty Show listed number one, the Paparazzi Show listed number two.
Wow.
So back then, Nancy Dubuque was the president of A&E, and she came to me and said, "I'll give you 8 shows. Can you really do this? Is it legal?" And I showed her the laws and said, "Yeah." And she's like, "Can you do it with a kid?" I go, "I hope so." And so then Andy Luster, Max great grandson, jumped bail on 87 counts of rape. And
87?
87 counts of rape, yep.
That's
And
insane.
so the bounty was $1 million.
Uh-huh.
He was in California, and just as he was getting ready to get sentenced, he took off.
Mm-hmm.
He was the FBI's most wanted. So all the bounty hunters across the country. Now remember, Tony Robbins put me in his book.
Yeah.
It still sells several thousand copies a year, and it's
Mm-hmm.
30, 40 years old.
Yeah.
And so bounty hunting, Papa Thorne, and all them, it became kind of a well-known thing, right? And so all the bounty hunters are like, finally, who is the best?
Mm-hmm.
And to show you we're the best, the capture would be Andrew Stewart Luster. So I caught him in Mexico, and as we were taking him to the jail, we were apprehended by the Mexican police and we put in jail for deprivation of liberty, but they also got him.
Gotcha.
So next day, the FBI picked him up, and then about 2 weeks later, I escaped jail there with my son Leland and my brother Tim. So it took us about 5 days to get to the border because we were dodging federales like crazy.
How did you escape jail there?
The warden left the door open, and so
Fair enough.
because while I was in custody, I started training in the federales how to put on handcuffs and
Yeah.
recognize Caucasian people because to them all Caucasians looked alike. Even if a guy had red hair,
Sure.
they say he looks like. Wait, don't brother. Let me show you scars, marks, tattoos, ears, noses.
Yeah.
So they were very intrigued about what I knew. So I became friends with the cops.
Mm-hmm.
So got to the United States, and Hugh Hefner sent a Playgirl Bunny to see us and said, Hugh wants you on July 4th at the Playboy Mansion. I'm like, what? And, he lights up the whole side of the mountain. God bless America.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm like all of my eyes out because I just got back to America. Thank you,
Sure.
Jesus.
Yep.
And so I so then a couple of years later, or a year later, Condoleezza Rice tried to stop it, but America arrested me on a misdemeanor from running for Mexico. And so Judge Pineda in Mexico found out my bond was 300 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So I posted bail. Uh, Judge Pineda in Mexico found out what America did. And so he said, we hereby drop all charges on Pedro.
Wow.
He's a free. So that kind of made the government that was against me a little upset because they thought I was, I mean, I made a lot of cops and stuff like that look bad because they looked 7 months and I'd catch the guy in 7 days.
Exactly.
Oh, he knows him. He hangs around with. No, I didn't know him. I just knew how to hunt him. And then a few years after that, I found out my father, Wes Chapman, was not my blood daddy. That my real father was a Chiricahua Apache. And the Chiricahua were the hunters of the Apaches.
Okay.
So my blood to do that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
together makes Dog the Bounty Hunter. It's a long way, but a way that's what makes me who I am.
It's a hell of a journey, though. I mean, you've been through some amazing stuff.
No, thank you. So have you, brother.
Not like you. Did you like? I mean, the show had to be kind of tough. I mean, it had to be tough to film because I mean, I watched it all the time, and you guys are jumping out of cars, sprinting after people. Camera guys are trying to keep up. I mean, it was hectic as hell.
Yes. Well, they last year, a year and a half ago, they canceled all, and cops went down, and now they're coming back up. But because of the stupid people, they didn't like cops and defund the police and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's all crazy.
The show we'll leave on right now is Dog the Bounty Hunter
Mm-hmm.
because he did it right and he gave them all a cigarette.
Yep, I remember that.
So, camera guys, I went through a whole bunch until we got about six
Mm-hmm.
because so many of them would, you kick a door in and say your prayer right now, bro,
Yeah.
because the next few minutes you stand in front of Jesus. On your marks, get set, boom, freeze. I
Yeah.
turn around, the camera into the car. So we called a bunch of sound guy, camera guy. We, went through a bunch before we found guys brave enough to hang right with me.
Yeah, I bet.
And yeah, so we had a great camera crew. We went to 3 different networks. We went to A&E 9 years, then we did 3 years with CMT, and then we did a year with WGN. So now we're doing streaming, and we're ready to launch a new show. The like I told you, the
The
Essentials.
essentials, yeah.
Yes, sir. So we're
So
still doing the best.
what? When do you think? And are you also doing a podcast? Launching a podcast?
Podcast called a Dogcast, and I've
Oh,
been working on it for 7 months. And I think how it's hard to launch, but I
yeah.
think we're going to launch end of August. And my theme is crime because no one has ever arrested 10,000 guys. They can't do it.
No.
A cop in his might get 1,000 in 25, 30-year career. And I don't have to go to bank robberies and car thefts, and I can keep hunting where cops can't stay on one guy.
Yep.
So as far as crime prevention, punishment, what to do, there's no one better. It can't be. And so we're going to stick with on the podcast crime. It's gonna evolve around different crime. It's better to educate than incarcerate. But it's better to pay fines. Steal a car, you pay $5,000, or you go to jail. You steal another car, you pay 15 grand.
Yeah.
You steal your third car, it's 25 grand, and you go to prison for 3 years. So the criminal justice system is just that, criminal justice.
Yeah.
So you hit them where it hurts in their pocket
Sure.
instead of putting them in. And then when you put them in prison, Texas was the only self-sufficient prison in America. Let me tell you something. I made Big Rocks, Little Rocks, and besides not having girls in prison, that was I'll never go back because it is hard labor.
Really?
I'm like, and now they lay around in the cell and 3 or 4 years and get out, and they're 86% and come back recidivists. So no, you need to work your way through there. You don't have to, work until it's unhuman. But there's a lot of work gangs in Colorado where along the highway,
Yeah.
they picked up fish, right? And gave them something to do. Now they sit up there and write poems
Yeah.
and file motions for their inmates, and they come right back, right?
Yep.
It's ridiculous. But
Yeah,
I see a huge.
If you make prison hard, people aren't going to want to come back.
No, and Texas was like, goodbye.
Yeah.
I know that our recidivist rate was 20% compared to Colorado was 74, 75%.
Wow.
Just like Colorado, if you're out on parole and you get a hot UA, you get, say you do heroin the night before, and you go and give a urinalysis and it's dirty, you're like, oh, bad boy. So the next day you do another hit.
Yeah.
Where years ago you dope, you're doing 30, 60 days.
Yeah.
Go do more dope, you do 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, but yesterday you saw with, or whenever you saw the Wyoming, what it turned out to be in the primaries. And I'm telling you, the tide is changing.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh, because they fooled a lot of people.
Yeah.
No more. An American can be false. But, so I think the crime, the punishment should fit the crime. And there's several other things that, that everyone tried to be light on. Oh, give them this, give them that. We're done with this. This is it. You're not taking our babies and, giving them sex, education at 7 and 8, 9 years old. Are you guys out of your mind? So, and biblically speaking, that the Bible talks about this in the beginning of the last days, what the world is going to be. And my wife showed me a scripture the other day in Matthew where Jesus said, now, in the beginning of the last days, he goes, and I'm going to put it in my words, I didn't come to play tiddlywinks. I came.
Yeah.
So grab a sword. I'm drawing a line in the sand, and you're going to have to pick a side.
Sure.
Sons will turn against fathers, daughters against mothers. But guess what? It's war. So right now, the beginning, all this, all the signs of the times show everyone like what's going on. All over the world, what's happening? Well, I can tell you, biblically speaking, we're heading toward those days, and it's war. So it's no longer Democrat against Republican. It's now bad guy versus good guy.
Sure. Sure. I've got a no here. Are you writing a book also this year coming out?
Yes, we're doing a book called. I wanted to put me and Jesus got our own thing going, but my wife Francie helped me name it. This dog has 9 lives.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So, and the last book I wrote a couple others, and I was not I don't want to say I wasn't allowed, but I was discouraged about talking too much about the Lord, and
Mm-hmm.
because it wasn't a like Christian book, right?
Sure.
So I got still in there out of three. And this book, they said, man, we want to hear what you really think.
Yeah.
So I get to say, like you asked me about my mom being Assembly of God and
Mm-hmm.
my beliefs in God, and, visions that, God showed me. If you straighten up, you will have every day someone tell you that they love you.
Sure.
And every I go somewhere, even when I'm walking down the street, someone will yell from the car, love you, dog, love you.
Mm-hmm.
So, God has been huge in my life, but it's not just, I'm a badass still. And I like to fight and win,
Mm-hmm.
but I also know God is so real that, I hope that, I love talking about it because I'm one of those guys that can prove it.
Yeah, I mean, 10,000 arrests without a carrying a gun is insane.
Well, let me say now, I used a bunch of different weapons for the feds. I tried them out.
Mm-hmm.
I used that the Hulk was squirted with, and I probably shot 1,000. I used the tasers, the
Yep.
way before I used a stun gun before a taser, but now we use a taser that'll drop a mule,
Really?
and I use a ball gun that the Denver SWAT department came up with years ago, and that thing will. Oh, I'm not going to say, but one of my kids shot a cow in the side and dropped it.
Oh goodness.
So I shot a lot of guys with that pepper ball gun,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a paintball gun, only it's so many times harder.
Yep.
And I mean, it you and you're down.
Yeah.
So you need a bullet, a lead bullet. To the other day, some guy came running at six cops with a machete, and ended up shooting him 30 some times. You could have tased him or shot him with a pepper ball,
Yep.
and the guy'd be alive. So
Yeah.
that's why I say, thank God I couldn't carry a lead gun, a lead bullet, because I'd have probably used it, right?
Yeah. For sure.
I, I shot me. I tried to do a karate kick of Bruce Lee because I took here in Colorado as a black belt at school, and I tried to use that, and he shot me in the leg,
Oh man.
and so I shot him with the taser. But if I'd had a real gun, I'd have shot him.
For
So
sure.
I'm glad that I'm not allowed to carry one.
Well, I mean, it seems like you were. Well, it doesn't seem like you were extremely effective at your job. So I
Yes,
don't think
sir.
it
Thank you.
didn't matter much. So where can people find the essentials and everything you got going on right now?
Patriot or something. We're going to that streaming service. We're going there. Then the book's coming out soon, and I mean, we're putting it together. We got about 6 shows in the can. We did Brian Laundry.
Yep. I
Everybody
knew that.
has
Yeah.
heard about it. We're doing, but we just got back from the two girls that got married in Moab, Utah. Some guy shot them 8 times apiece.
Mm.
Some scum. So we're doing that case, and all the high profile cases people want to tell you about because they want to talk about it.
Yeah.
So this morning, 16-year-old missing in California. My Facebook and stuff is going crazy. Dog, where are you? Dog, get after him, get after him. So we're going to have them up on those sites.
Mm-hmm.
Networks are afraid right now to put anything up that
Yeah.
you may say something wrong, or
Oh yeah.
like if freeze right now, blow your head off.
Yep.
Oh, you can't say that.
Yeah.
I say, what do you want to say? Freeze in the name of Jesus? You try. Here's a sling, a shotgun. Now,
Oh
so
goodness.
networks are ready to be a thing of the past.
Yep. Yep.
So I
Yep.
think going to a lot of streaming, and
Yeah.
you can tune who you want to see, and
Yeah, I mean, with your following and just how long you've been doing it, people are gonna find it and watch it if you stream it. So it's gonna go well for you.
thank you very much.
All right, so Dogcast is coming out, new podcast. Looking forward to that. You got a book coming out, The Essentials, dogthebountyhunter.com, and they can find you. Everyone can find you on social media, and the new show that's
Yes, sir.
going to be coming out.
Yes, thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time. It's you're like I said, it's fascinating. Your life and the work that you've done for the country and everybody else. So I appreciate it, and be safe out there.
You too, brother. Aloha. And, I hate to keep saying it, but it's by the grace of God, there could have went I.
Oh yeah.
And it was just my mother's love. And, God has just been, and like I told you, and I'll leave it like that, I can prove it.
Yeah.
I cannot life, but I can prove that, there is a God, and God can work miracles and do things that we all kind of know in our heart that will work. Hard to live. It's so much easier being a good guy than a bad guy.
Oh yeah.
You don't got to watch fingerprints or wonder who saw you with a camera or, oh my God, need a lie detector test. It's so, much greater to be a good guy.
Oh yeah. I totally agree. Well, thank you for
That's
taking. Well, thank you for taking your time. I know you're a busy guy. I look forward to seeing all the stuff you got coming out, and be safe out there.
You too, brother. Aloha. Thank you so much.
No
Thank you.
problem. Thanks, dog. Have a good one.
Yes, sir. You too. Thank you very much.